of, the kind of lives that we live. Abami abagenda, n'abakozi ku farm abakiga bajja ne bamala emyaka esatu. They had never gone back home. And I'm thinking, what are you thinking? I was almost getting nagging them to go home. Because they receive their salary immediately, they keep some money and then they are sending money back home. 2 years, 3 years, and the person hasn't gone. Not even Christmas time, because for me, if they are non-Muslim and those are their holidays, I respect that, and I would be very willing to sort of have them, take off those days. All I've made sure is if it is Eid, then they will understand it is Eid, because they will get a fete on the farm regardless of whether they are not Muslim. And because now I'm showing the Islamic side of things. But men have come all the way from Chisoro in Imufumbira. Men who have come from Kabare there, Michigan, just 2 years, 3 years, comfortably sitting there, and and I wonder now the family back home. The next thing is the man actually leaves to go home at a point where his daughter, a senior 4 vacationist, has been impregnated by a young man in the village. And so he's going to go and handle the cases with the police, and he wants to carry the money by himself to go there to be able to make sure it is done the right way. So I'm thinking about this father now who has been away 2-3 years, coming back home. The kind of life that he's living here, the kind of things making sure family back home is surviving. I was feeling these are some of the things that go unappreciated. I go to the story of Museveni again, specifically because he goes to the bush. He manages to capture power. He comes to power. So his family comes to join him, and the success, the sweat, the years away, the times that he took off to go away are sort of paid by this kind of success. How about the millions of men who live and never manage to come back simply because it's too small for them to come back? It becomes a shame for them to be able to walk back home. I wonder. I look at how the daughter now clings onto the dad because she's trying to sort of capture and make up for those lost years. And then I thought about my own situation. If you've just joined us, you joined us when I was just trying to explain, to say, I took time off and I said to my dad, Dad came to visit, and we got married. It was 2002, and we had got married back in 1999. So this was like his 5th, 6th visit. He comes to Rwanda, where I was head of television news. And first of all, he arrives in Kigali. He's very well known there. That's home. That's the second home for him. He goes to visit somewhere. The news comes on, and then I'm the one presenting the news. He's praised so much. He comes back, and I've never seen my dad being as happy as he was then. He felt like I'd made him proud. And to me, that was a message really deeply rooted. So the following day, I take time off and I say, Dad, I would like us to have a chat. Because for all I knew about Dad, I realized I knew very little about him, especially the time that he left. I come to learn something that was very interesting about him, which is the times that he spent away, the kind of life that he led. For 2 days, nonstop, only broken up by swala and food and toilet breaks. We were just sitting with my dad. What I didn't know was that was going to be the last time we were going to be having this conversation, because the moment I moved to the United Kingdom in 2003, before I knew it, he was dead. But that conversation that we had over 2 days opened up a lot of things. I got to hear, I got to ask, because now I put myself into a sort of an interviewer's position, and that made it much more interesting. It was no longer the father-son relationship. It was interviewer-interviewee relationship, going deep and sort of asking some of the uncomfortable questions, some questions that I would sort of feel, did I ask that? But I'd put it there. And I was amazed at how he was willing to open up. It was like he had been sitting on this powder cage for years, unable to have anyone to share these particular experiences. Because to the wives, when he returns coming, home after all that time, of course, you know what the excitement is about. It would eat up on the time, even the time that he would have used to sort of explain what is going on in his life. And for many of us, we return home and we don't get an opportunity to discuss with our spouses what we are living through. Husband listening to wife, wife listening to husband, being able to know what is going on in their lives. Theirs were lives that would spend 3 months, 4 months away on the road. These were very, very trying times. And I spoke to my dad, and speaking to him, it opened up a whole new chapter, a whole new understanding that was totally different from that time on. The way I saw Dad, the way I appreciated him was totally different. I understood him more than, because we are 32 children for my dad. 27 are still alive now, alhamdulillah. The rest have died since. But to imagine that none of them ever got as close as to what I managed to get in 2 days, in terms of, because I tried to capture all these different aspects. So probably where you are listening to this conversation tonight, you have your father who has been away. Maybe he's late now and you never had a chance to have this kind of conversation. It might make a lot of sense, probably, if you think about having that very conversation. And tonight, the way this program works, if you are just a newbie to the program, we just come to share experiences. We come here to de-stress, to offload a lot of the other life stresses, but also sharing experiences which can become, important in our own lives. And do not feel inhibited. What we want to hear from you is appreciating those fathers. I listened to my dad. First of all, one interesting bit is how he left home to start traveling. My dad could speak up to 7 languages very fluently. I speak 12. So I was sort of celebrating that I beat him to 5 more languages than he does speak. He had traveled a lot. We are 32 children spread across, much of the world now, but initially, even within Africa, we were in the whole of East Africa and then down in South Africa, where we have siblings there. To know that Dad left home, running away because his dad was a big sheikh who would gather people, children would come to his home, like the way they went to attack Sheikh Kamoga's home. That's how many people went to study there. There were no formal schools. People would go to a sheikh's home, they would get their rooms there, they would start studying the Quran and the Hadith, and they would learn. My grandfather, Sheikh Yusuf Sentam, was one of the big sheikhs in Masaka there. So my dad was one of the students, of course, being at home, and they arranged a marriage for him without telling him. They got a bride, they started preparing the whole day. My dad is totally oblivious of what was going on. And so one of the Sengas comes and says, hey, they had nicknamed him Maukuti. He comes and says, Maukuti, wetege sotia. Because then they brought him a long trouser. He used to wear a pair of shorts. So they brought him a long trouser. There was a kanzu ready. And he just thinks we have a dua at home. These were ceremonies that would normally happen, people graduating and so on. Totally no idea about what was going on. One of the aunties of Ababeda Nengambo comes and says, Maukuti, wetege sotia omugole yomu manye kimira kye ekijja. My dad now becomes curious, and to find out that he was getting married, they were bringing a bride for him without any, initial consultation, never seen. Everything had been done because this is a sheikh's son and everything could be done and sorted out. But he had not been involved in the process. My dad takes a step that was going to change entirely his life and actually now affect our own lives, because probably we wouldn't have been born if that decision had not been made. Dad gets a bicycle, runs away from home, escapes on the day of the wedding. You can imagine celebrations are going on. He just goes through the banana plantation and escapes from home. He disappears, cycles all the way to Karisizo, ends up in Masaka. Our granddad, late granddad, another brother of my grandfather, Sheikh Sadiq Muawu, was one of the first people to own a bakery, to bake breads, especially not those big breads, but the sirika o baby, sirika o sirika o sirika mwana, sirika o mwana, or sirika o baby. The kamwana akawa. Actually, others would call it mwana akawa. He was one of those first people. Banzi. My granddad was the first person there within Masaka Kalisizo to bake, because he had gone to Indians and working around Indians, he had learned how to bake, and he started baking bread. But they were also making chapatis, which were a whole new phenomenon. People didn't know chapatis. My dad had gone to his uncle, and learned how to make chapatis. He gets to Masaka, buys a packet of ngano. I think it was drum then, the type of gado they were using, makes about 42 chapatis from his packet, and he loads them onto his bicycle and embarks on a journey that starts taking him from Masaka to Mbarara, where he ends up in Ankole. That's how he ended up settling, in Ankole. He finds the Muslims who had run away during the fighting of the Muslims. And one thing leads to another. My dad settles, and then he starts building up a life. After that, he enters into Congo, where he married his first wife, but a wife of his own choice. Now, listening to this entire story, and the man who then 50, 60, 70 years, we are having a conversation about that breakaway aspect. These 2 days made me appreciate my father in ways I would never have appreciated him. And I know many men, leave alone Uganda, abasajja bali kubyeyo. Omusajja najjaga akalimu kalina kubeera Bamburi, ate nga amaka gali London. Olina bw'ojja kusitula abantu kubajja London, kubatwala Oxford na Derby. You have to leave the house. Omukyala asigala eno. You go there, you work 5 days, probably just come the weekend. There are many men who do that. And for the children, a lot of times, the appreciation probably is not there. Even to the wives, it gets to a point where if they are not strong-willed, why should I bore you? The conversation is live, and I'm opening the microphones now for us to hear and celebrate fathers. Probably you have heard a bit of my own fathers, and probably I'll keep chipping in here and there, just bringing in new aspects. But I would like to hear your own stories. Are you that kind of wife? Probably you sat back and listened in, because probably that's the conversation I'm about to have with my mom, inshallah, and I pray Allah keeps her alive. I would like to go and sit down and just talk about the aspect of father being away. How did you cope with that? That conversation alone, and we just talk about that, because then probably it would have helped to inform tonight's conversation. But you might be the wife that has sat back as husband went away. You might be the husband who is still struggling to do that, to make sense of it. Or maybe you are the daughter or son of such a man who went away, like I am now, testifying. Come, let's talk with me, Kassim Kayira. We are live on 75 W Radio. We are live on Ummah Connected, 35 minutes past 8 o'clock in the United Kingdom. Why don't I just open up the microphones? And Hafsa, I come to you, Hafsa Gasuja. I'll just come to you straight away before you disappear and get busy with other stuff. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, Hasfa. Hello, Asfa, are you there? Okay, well, I'm trying to get Asfa. I'm sure she's there. I don't think it is yet Salah time to disappear. Rehma RM. Rehma, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. People are shy today, Arabi. Hello, Rehma. NK might be at work, but I'll give it a try. We are just having the conversation tonight, and we are appreciating fathers. Probably there's that special thing that you would like to appreciate about your father, something that you think probably hasn't been appreciated, or maybe even to repeat it. There's no harm in going that, all the way to sort of come out and say it. But Jukida, you can just use any language that you feel comfortable in. We are having a conversation, and why not? Shamim? Hello, Shamim. I need to get a first person to get us talking, and it looks like everybody now is shying away. Ya Rabbil Alameen. That never happens on this program. We are all open, and we talk to each other. We talk with each other. And quite often that helps to open doors. Isma is in the studios. I can see your microphone is open. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sekawere. Hello, Isma. Ya Rabbi. Am I there? Am I alive? I need to be sure that I'm not talking to myself. Hajat Sarah, are you there? Let me be sure at least that I'm not alone in this conversation. I might be going on and on. Subhanallah. Is everybody shy or what? Suddenly everybody goes quiet. This is appreciating and celebrating fathers. How are you, Hajat Sarah?
Alhamdulillah, I'm well. Thank you so
much. I don't know why I was feeling like I had called you during the week, and I called you in my heart, I think, because I kept telling myself I will call, I'll have called. Subhanallah. Yes. Last time we spoke last week, your car had been stolen. Did you manage to get it back?
No, no positive news yet. I don't think I will anyway, because I was assured by the police, but that the thieves are very clever and they really want those cars. They are quite on demand. So no hope of that. I'm now dealing with the insurance. They've asked me for the keys, logbook, MOT certificate, and the service history. So I've sent all that in, posted it, and they say they'll get back to me within 5 working days. I'm not hopeful, and even if maybe I was to find it, I think I'll be just getting a shell of a car. They might have rummaged it and taken up all the important parts. So I don't think
the bits that they can sell quickly.
Yeah, that gives me some more trouble if I have to fix that kind of a car which has been
the damage which has been tampered with. Oh, subhanallah. Did you not have a tracker in the car?
Well, they say they are very easy to be disabled. These guys are very clever. I was advised
many of these are mechanics.
If I ever get that kind of a car, it would be best to find a special kind of pocket to keep the keys, and I will write away from the door, as in keep the keys far away, because they have computers, they know how to manipulate them and then get the cars going. So they are always ahead of everyone. Yeah. Okay. You know, the good thing we are here, I'm sure I'll be compensated, maybe not as much as I expect, but there'll be something coming through. So I'm just hopeful.
Our sincere sorries to you for that. Now we are celebrating dads, and I'm sure there is a story about your dad somewhere.
Yeah, my dad was quite a very hardworking man. When I was little, first I wasn't much aware of what was going on, but as you grow older, then you start picking interest, because I thought maybe it was normal for all dads to be away from home. He was also a long distance lorry driver when we were very little.
Oh, was
so he would take goods,
we have
Congo, Kinshasa. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah? Sorry, Mr. Keke.
Now I'm saying we have something in common there. I didn't know.
Yes, we do. He had a lorry, big lorry, those kind of goods lorries. He would take goods in Kinshasa, Congo, Kinshasa, Rwanda, and it would take long, weeks and months before coming back, because the roads were really bad, as you said.
Yes.
And they were also very dangerous. And I think those Scania, was it Scania or Tata, those kind of lorries, sometimes they would break down on the road, and that would even make the journey more longer. And when they break down on the road, there were lots of thieves.
The thieves, actually, in the Antonde there in Lake Mburo National Park, there is a place, it was called Nekongoriro. Or Nekongoriro. Yeah, wherever you hear someone has broken down in Nekongoriro, you know that is disaster. And the journey between Mbarara and the Antonde, or Mbarara and Ntungamo, which is just 40 miles, could comfortably take 7 hours. Just 40 miles for 7 hours. Because of the potholes, as you drive one side of the road and just go, you are just zigzagging through the road. So he would be away a lot of times.
When we were bigger, he used to tell us stories that made me really very frightened and scared for him. Because every time he would go out, would be like, oh, my dad might not come back. Because one time his lorry broke down, and he knew that if he stayed or slept in the lorry, the thieves will come and kill him and take all the stuff. So he had to lie down underneath the lorry with his panga, the jambia. So he took cover under the lorry. So they come and they try to open and start stealing stuff. And with his panga, he started just cutting their legs, you see, because he knew if they get to him, they were going to kill him. And they were the one who started okuba endulu nti omusajja wuno atutta kubanga he was lying So he used to tell us those very frightening stories, and we were like, why don't you stop going there? In my mind, as a young child, you wouldn't tell him to do that.
Yeah.
But we are fortunate he did make a fortune from those kind of journeys, and he managed to buy his own trucks, and then he had other people doing the trade, taking stuff out, and also as we grew older, then he started buying buses. And these guys were quite clever because my dad, he used with those buses, he assembled them himself. He would buy different parts and even build the entire bus okugizimba yennyini. We had a garage.
Ng'asobola okugula loole ne
bazimba bus. Yeah. So this is how clever. You don't see that happening today.
Yeah.
But some he would do in Nairobi, some he would do in Chisenyi in his garage, and that's how he
only
acquired.
Nairobi place there was
yes. Yeah, and he acquired lots
the
of buses.
one now is sort of it was a whole modification. Go on, please. Yeah.
So it was quite surprising how hardworking they were and how they managed to get into that transport. And from that, you have the network is a bit poor. It even shows on the screen. Sometimes you skip shekeke. But yeah, when I look back today and I see how much he labored to get where he slowly accumulated his wealth, I have to really appreciate him and really celebrate him, because he did it slowly, gradually from one lorry to two. Then he had a fleet of lorries, then he had a fleet of buses, and he became very rich, and we had a very wonderful, happy life from that. Yeah.
That was the lucky bit, that when he went away, he managed to come back and he had accumulated. So by the time when he started running the buses, was he much more available at home, or the thing that had started with him going away now kept pulling him away?
He was, because he had to be in Chisenyi almost every day. He would go to Chisenyi to make sure they build his buses. And he stopped going to some Tatars. There were Tatar buses, Leylands, I don't remember the names, which were built in Nairobi.
Yeah, they were Leyland, they were DAF.
So they were built in Nairobi.
Yes.
And then he had more being assembled. I don't know if I say assembled, that means the parts are brought, but there was a way. And Basalangani engineers, I don't know whether they still do it.
They do.
Those Kikubo, underneath Kikubo there were some real big workshops where they could tell there's engines are bus, So then we were having him by that time. But when he was still a young man, we hardly saw him. And the stories he told were really worrying. I love the fish he used to bring, yakijanga Congo ndowooza for us when
waliyo makayabu. Yes, that's makayabu.
I love that fish. I have never tasted fish that's so nice like that. So he would come with that fish whenever he came back home, and that was something I always looked forward to. So it was quite interesting. But these guys were really hardworking. That's something I will never take away from them, because today you see how people struggle. I don't know whether it was quite easy for someone to accumulate wealth slowly, because today it's not happening for many people. And my dad never went to school. So one time he had one of his friends was quite a well-learned person who used to help him transfer his lorries into his names. But one time that person was quite clever. He did not do that. He transferred one of the lorries into their names. So there was a bit of a fight. I'll never forget that fight. It was a bad fight. So but they had a humble beginning, and then we had a good life right from their hard work.
From that hard work, yes.
So
did you ever get a chance to sit with him, to talk to him, for example, beyond him telling you the stories? Did you ever get a chance to find out, what it was like for him, how he built up what he built?
No, he did tell us himself. Evening time, our dads, when my dad,
Yes.
he would be back. He had a particular time of coming back home.
Mhm.
5 p.m., he'll be home. So we had tea in the evening together. And that's the time when we would get some stories from him. He was quite always happy to tell us how his day has been. And, we would all gather around him, mom bringing in food and us just sitting around him and tell us stories. But I don't know up to now. It's now that you make me think maybe I needed to learn more. But that was always quite enough for us.
Yes. No, there are times when you think that you know someone until you realize you don't, and
Mm,
that is something I've learned as time went by.
mm,
And you have conversations that remain with you over time. They just become a part of you because until you've heard from someone, no sima no manyo ruso muntu lwaki yakoze iki yakoze, sometimes you don't get to appreciate until you know that.
mm.
Yes.
That's true, but for me, I think I did appreciate my dad even then because, he gave us a very wonderful life. You could see how other children were suffering or struggling in their own homes.
Yes.
But daddy did his best, and I'll always be grateful to him. Yeah. Mm.
Well, that is one way of celebrating. Actually, now you have celebrated him. A lot of times, it's easier to miss those kind of things. And the issue I said is that now there are many people who went naddala bagenda mu nsiko okulwana, and they never made it back. Abamu bagenda okudda nga bakomyewo n'ebisago that were life changing, so unable to continue working, ate nekiyagenda okukima nga takomyewo nakyo. Akasiimo ke bali babadde bamuwa mu magye oba mu sirikale kye yagendamu n'osanga kazze kafunye n'omulala n'akabba n'akaliirayo, and this person is sort of lost both ways. They lost where they went, they come back to find now even a more desperate situation that makes them look really, really bad. Zino examples tuba nazo. Kati va ne ku magye gokka waliwo abagenda mu byeyo bweyo n'ojjayo kami nnogaaka ngende bweru ngiye n'otuuka wano n'omala emyaka 8 10 empapula tebakuwanga, you can't go back. Otandise kukola ozikolera ku bunkenke sawa yonna bankwata banzizaayo, and you are in that situation where you are imagining bwe bankwatira banzizeeyo akasente kange ntambula nako n'okwebaka osula oyambadde tebansanga tebantwalira awo. And these are sometimes things that we easily sort of lose up on. So how do you think your mom felt about your dad's being away, if he was, especially in those early days?
If she felt any way, she didn't mention to us.
Right.
I think most women in those days were like, this is what it should be for someone to bring bread on the table. Yeah. I'm sure she must have been happy that we were able to be put in school and having bread on the table because other people were suffering and we had a much better life. Yeah. But if I was to speak for myself, well, I can't say I have had an absent husband or what, but me as a person who has not been at home with my children for quite a long time, yeah, there are gaps that I'll never fulfill in their lives. Yeah. There are things I've missed so much about my children that sometimes it is even difficult to have a very good conversation with them. Right. Yeah, there is that kind of gap. And I'm sure those gaps must be filled by even the fathers. Yeah. It could be very difficult for them to communicate with their children. Yeah. And I've also heard about mothers who blame fathers so much, like saying they're not giving the children time. Yes. Sometimes it's very hard to balance. Mm. You're going to be in work, especially when you're having an abroad job or jobs that require you to be away from home, it could be very difficult to balance up that time. You either stay at home or you have to go and work. So fathers have been blamed for not being at home and not giving their children enough time, but sometimes it's not their own doing. I'm sure they would love to be with their family, but because of what they're doing or the kind nature of their jobs, they cannot do it. And
Yeah,
it's quite a
I wish many women or many wives saw it that way, Hajat Sar. And I would like to hear from the women in the conversation tonight. But now is no debates because I think the reason we come is to have these conversations, honest conversations. It was in your past, but it might even be in your future. If you listen to this and find ways around it, then maybe what way that would appreciate a situation Jogamba, like where they will blame the men for being away, and yet they know what is at stake. I think I took a decision after being in the BBC for more than a decade, after working for the BBC for more than 10 years. I was just feeling unhappy. I felt there was something that was unfulfilled, and I wanted to pursue it. I wanted to farm. I wanted to be on a farm because all my dreams, my life's dreams have been about retiring on a farm, aging on a farm. And that has been the dream. So I started thinking, yeah, Allah, can I make it happen? But by making that happen, something had to give. Speaking to my wife and sort of saying, you know, saying to my wife, you know, I would like to go. I would like to go to move to Uganda and go on and see this farm through. It took a lot of courage. It took a lot of, taking heart, but we did it. The moment she said, yes, you can go. With an interesting anecdote there, Hajat Sarah, to say, nkwatira Qur'ani ondayirire tojja kuwasizayo mukazi mulala. But here was this man that was so desperate to establish this dream, because for me, I was feeling that life's fulfillment, regardless of everything else, I'd lived here, I'd lived that high life, fast life. It didn't really, still take me to where I felt like this is, because my dream was get on the farm, make it a productive farm, but do my journalism from there, start writing on the farm, because then I would have time, I'd be able to sit and concentrate. All of these thought processes were just on the farm. And I left and went and spent about 3.5 years. 3.5 years, as you said, 3.5 years that I can never get back, because they become painful. You lose certain moments with your children who are growing up. Coming back, by the time I get back, the two older children are already leaving home. The first one is finishing uni. The second one is deciding to take a different path away from uni, taking the apprenticeship line. And all of a sudden you realize with these two, they are gone. Now it had to be a choice. Can I catch up on the remaining 4 and make sure I make up to them, at least over that lost time? I said, yes. So I had to do everything. I had to do everything to sort of make sure that I catch up on this lost time. But the one thing that I've done, just like your dad used to do, and my dad actually used to try to have a conversation whenever he comes, talks about these interesting stories, but there was a backstory. And that backstory for me was much more important. Those 2 days opened up a whole new understanding. My view of the world, my view of the world around him, all changed because of this conversation that took place in 2 days, where we were having an honest and straight conversation about particular things. How did you end up getting married to many women and all of these? These were sort of personal questions that you would not ordinarily have asked a father. But I got a chance to ask these questions. But I'm different, because with my children, the stories, we are open, and therefore it's even upon them now. They're the ones who would run out of what questions to ask. But I would be there and available to be able to tell the stories. Alhamdulillah, what I set out to go and do has sort of, it's taking shape. It's there. It's taking shape to how I would want it to be. Not yet fully there. It's work in progress, but I started it. And if I didn't leave, I'm almost certain it would never have taken off, not in the way that it has. So there are these sacrifices that have to be taken, and fathers really a lot of times are not appreciated. I think the pain of many men go to their graves in deep pain, feeling unappreciated. with all the hard work that they do. Everyone really would want to be appreciated. Many women would feel probably unappreciated too. But for the men, it almost becomes a given that they would have to do it. You know, you should do it. Yes, tough feelings at that level of appreciation. But I think the most important thing is for those men who have managed to go out and they benefit from it, I think would be that there's nothing that is comparable to that. There are many men who have gone out, maybe basara. Agadde kane gamulema, wanga bimusalidde gye yalaze, aye neno gye yasigadde nga kisoboka. Sarah, if you had a message for, well, fellow women out there, or even other men, what would you say, considering your own personal story and what I've been able to share tonight?
I think they have to be more compassionate and understanding.
Mhm.
Yeah, and appreciate their men more. Not to blame them, to try and understand them, because I'm sure they're mature enough to realize that everyone would love to be in their homes. But if you're forced to go out to look for money, then it's a choice you have to take, regardless of what you're leaving behind. And doesn't mean you love your people less, you love them more. It's why you're undertaking that kind of choice. Because if you didn't, you would stay in your bed and have no bread at the table. But because you love them so much, and they even men themselves, they are suffering. Imagine on those long distance journeys, they don't have their wives with them. They don't have their family with them. So you have to really think about that. Because which kind of a man wants to spend a night without their wife or their children?
The kind of sacrifices that they would have to do to take to be able to get to that. And I think that is often lost. Many men feel, and I wish women on the program tonight at least could come out and even at least admit to that appreciation. Abasajja bangi, they don't feel appreciated, and I think that really kills the entire spirit of the effort that someone puts into whatever happens within their homes. But of course, that's why tonight we wanted to celebrate that bit. There are many men who might have gone astray along the way, but that's not the subject of tonight. Tonight, we'd like to celebrate those that have really gone out of their way and tried to make the difference that they are living through. Hajat Sarah, thank you very much. With just a minute coming to 9 o'clock, the program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. We are live on 75 W Radio. We are live on Ummah Connected, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. And the conversation is continuing where we are celebrating fathers, away fathers, the fathers that have left home, embarked on that powerful decision to leave home and go and look for something for their families. Said Katende, you just joined the conversation. Allow me to come to you up. It's up or down in Virginia there. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I'm sure you've interrupted a session at work of sorts. So how are you? And thank you very much for joining us.
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing very well, and I'm glad I was able to make it for the show.
Barakallah fikum. Do you have a man, a father to celebrate before you celebrate your own self? Was your dad one of those men who traveled out of home and you would love to celebrate him?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, I'm lucky to be among those that have a living father who has played that role. And indeed, I don't know, for some reason, the fathers of those days, one of their characteristics was known to stay in one place. So they did everything possible to fend for their families. And in the process, they could traverse different places. No wonder the listeners, or even you, Sheikh Kayila, can confirm that could be one of the reasons that they, majority of them are linguistics. They know more than 3 languages within the country and possibly across the region.
Mhm.
But my dad being one of those, I really celebrate him. And I'm so grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that from one of the programs here, there was a presentation by a sheikh who really encouraged us to celebrate our parents. And that's around 2-3 years ago. It was during COVID time. So I made a pledge, and Alhamdulillah, I'm proud to share back again on Come Let's Talk with Kassim Kayira that one of the great dads, who is my dad, has been gifted by Allah for Hijjah this year.
Oh, barakallah.
So, yes.
Allahumma taqabbal.
And that's not a reward to him, because there is nothing that is commensurate to what he has done for me and the family at large.
Yes.
But I can guarantee you that all those sacrifices, I was listening in from Hajat Samakula,
Yes.
who happens to be my auntie by virtue of our culture.
Right.
And I was amazed. And I reflected in one of the programs again, where he submitted, it was regarding to the qualities of a man and the role of a man in a family, something like that.
Yes.
And by coincidence, that's the last program that I was able to participate in.
Yes.
So it was very controversial what her expectations were for a man in the context of a man today.
Yes.
And their role. But back to the point is we have learned a lot from our parents, specifically my dad. And when the pickup for me is that as dads in the family, when we decide to do our best in playing our role as the head of the family, it reflects so much in the lives of our children, even when we have left. But it's quite a big motivation now as a parent, as a dad in a family, and relating to the topic of the day, to feel appreciated. It is a huge motivation that men actually never ask for. So really you choosing this topic was spot on, because many men don't say it loud. We tend to suffer silently because we are men.
We man up.
And
we man
yes,
up.
culturally, that's how we are trained to be. Oli musajja, musajja takaba, musajja takola chi. Naye behind the curtain, ebisenge biba byogera. Bambi abasajja bakaba, abasajja banakuwala nnyo. And tewali kinakuwaza musajja nga butamu appreciating.
Absolutely.
Ate ng'abakyala oba n'abaana oba ne mu communities gye tuwangalira, tewali kizaamu musajja maanyi n'awulira ng'asobola n'okuseetula olusozi we lutudde. Yes, n'akutuka for you. Oba okitegeera nga topic eyaliwo emabega awo. Tebyetaaga science mungi. Just appreciate your man. Go back and appreciate your dad, appreciate your parents, appreciating abasajja mu communities, nga balamu, nga chance tukyazirina. Bw'oba okozemu kasente, tatawo ng'olina n'obusobozi, tatawo mutwaleko mu hijja, tatawo mutambuzeeko mu duniya, bazadde bo okutwaliza wamu, bakolere kyonna ekisoboka okukolebwa. In the process, it has a trickle-down effect ku baana baffe, mu communities ze tuwangaalira, ne munsi yonna okutwaliza wamu. You want to win everything in this world, you appreciate a man. Ojja kulaba ng'omuganda wayinza okugamba nti ajja kulwanirira n'ejjembe likutukemu naye ng'akyagenda. So to be precise, mukadde wange kwegawe mba mwogerako n'eddoboozi likankanamuko naye nga it's because of the impact gy'alina mu bulamu bwaffe ng'abaana ne mu community, kuba ye musajja ku kyalo gwe nalabako nga bw'aba akomawo okuva mu zisafaari ezo nga bw'ozimanyisha Kayira. Ekyalo kyonna kikuŋŋaana naye nga balinze eki bamanyi hajja akomawo ne loole y'emmere, loole y'amanda, buli kimu ky'oyinza okulowoozaako. Ate ng'ekyewuunyisa nga tannaleeta kuggyako bijja waka, wallahi ng'asooka gabira kyalo. Ebisigalako ebitonotono nga bye tuba nabyo.
Tulina bye twafikira sigumu sebiri n'abigaba ne yeerabira agenda okujjukira ng'atuuse ku mulyango. Kwata nga biweddemu.
Ebyo omuntu afudde ku kyalo, akomotoka kakatono mu butono bwako, bapasenja 3 naye omu, nga ffe tusasula emmotoka ku kyalo ez'okuziika, ate nali mwana muto. Naye ng'ojja kusasula naye ng'abantu b'oku kyalo bakoze eki nga bafunye we batuula mu kamotoka ke basobole okugenda okuziika. Bingi nnyo naye kimumakinga special nze nga nze kyemufiiringako lwakuba nti era nze abantu bwe boogera by'aba single mothers biki ntunula ne ntegeera kye balimu, naye ate bw'olowooza ku ye kuba yatukuzanga single parent, not because of anything, kuba mami yali yafa nga tukyali bato nnyo, naye n'atukuza ate nga kwegamba mu mbeera gye wandirowoozezza nti yesingira ddala obulungi. Kati impact eyo gye bakola mu bulamu bwaffe, namusaba retiringe ng'akyalina amaanyi ag'okukola, but because I thought it was the time, maybe akatono ennyo to give back. Era retiring about myaka nga 12 emabega, ne bulamu kwegamba ne busigala nga bukola ki, butambula bulungi. So the point is to appreciating abantu nga bakyali balamu, kuba tubamanyi n'ebirungi bye batukolerawo ebiri tubiraba in terms of abakyala baffe oba abaana baffe, to appreciating abasajja, to appreciating bataata baffe, mujja kulaba oba oliawo n'emitawaana mu duniya nga gikendera, kuba yandikoze omutawaana kubaliga butakola buvunaanyizibwa ajja kukwatibwamu ensonyi because mumulaze omukwano. Barakallahu fikum wa jazakumullahu khair.
Thank you very, very much, Said Katende, all the way in Virginia in the United States of America. Barakallahu fikum. We are talking about appreciating fathers, and a lot of times, joining a conversation, a lot of times you find that our fathers, go away and they hurt. Men do sit down and cry without showing anyone that they are crying. You find your own spot and get crying in case you don't feel appreciated. It hurts for a man not to feel appreciated. And just like anybody else, just like any human being. However, that tonight's program is not just about appreciation per se. It is appreciation in the context. Into Boraba. Ninabasajja dumu Allah watanda kuteeka mu mbeera you cannot appreciate certain situations. Twagendako olutalo lw'e Rwanda lumaze okutandika, boda baziggadde, our business was a restaurant, a hotel, all our money was coming from that. Minus that, you would know there would be serious dilemma, implications in terms of finances. So because the borders had been closed, our hotel was dependent 90% on Swahili-speaking clients. So Kenyans, Somalis, Rwandans, Burundians, these are our customers. In the closure and with the closure of the border, business went down. We could no longer, get customers. Gatunda kutandika kulwanira ba customer aba na Uganda who would be there, ba Maika bangenda rushere, bagenda rwachitura wa president and all of that. That is a very, very small market that you had to all be competing for. But one truck comes neja nefira waka, abasajja tebalina sente za kulya mu hoteri, ne bajja moroke bafuddeko baamala omwezi mulamba, and we were feeding them. We gave them food for that 1 month. Ne bagambe moroka bweriwona ne mugende mutikka ente mulisasula. There was no paying. Omusajja najja driver tani boy we nema makanika babiri. We had about 5 people that we were feeding for an entire month, not paying even a single coin at a time when the economy was that difficult. Long story short, Rore Marokuona bagenzi batisse kati mukutika, of course balina nte zina kumala kujja zijje rufura. They sell. Once they have sold, then they would be able to pay us. Being Uganda that it is, omuntu ojja mugaa nti ogende omuleka agende mu sente aliziku I had to go along with mama bantuza mu kabini ya Rore ya Fuso tusimbudde awaka. Mwara okuyitawo katono tumaze okutuuka mu Kyazanga nga baga nti nanyini ntaze tayagala kusharinga space eno, so mvubuka tubaye tusaba ogende waggulu ku nte. So nalina ogenda okulinnya ku Fuso waggulu n'amayembe ago gaba gayiseemu. If you have seen amayembe ago engeri gye gaba gabeeramu. I get onto the truck. Wali empewo Allah gye yateeka mu Lwera sawa 8 ogw'ekiro. Waliwo empewo efuuwa ku 8 ogwo yeeyina bwe yeefaanana. It's a different type of cold. Nkutte ku pipes at 2 a.m. kubanga baagala bayingire mu Kampala ng'obudde bukya buki, traffic baleme genda bateganya and all of that. So nogenda ntuule bantuuze ntudde ku mitayimbo waggulu. Amayembe gonna ente nga bw'ozimanyi we zitambula zinyinya baasigyesi ne gali gati nti weepankira bwoti n'otalantukamu katono otuulira jjembe oba Allah ne likuyuza ekyannamukaaka gwo n'amanya. Sitting in that particular cold, lesson gye nafuna over 2-3 hours of travel genda okutuuka e Kampala mu Lufura, bano bagende bamala okutunda ente zaabwe, then later on allow me to be able to get paid and therefore, go get the money. Ngenda okuva waawo ku makya nenga nti obulamu buno mbugenzeemu essaawa zange zibadde 3, let's say 5 hours, which seemed like eternity, and I struggled and I fought through that. Naye nga kuliko abasajja be bayita abayana be batambulira ku loore ezo z'olaba ezitambulira ku ente, be basajja bagenda basikaasika emikira gy'ente ezo bagisibye omuguwa, ente etabuseemu. There are times when some cows efuna obuzibu ne fainting or they have to stop. Banoonya akagulumugulumu batikkule ente bajjeyo kubanga ente yinza obanga eri mu maaso. If the cow is in the front of the truck, they have to almost remove all these other cows before they can actually get to the cow itself. The amount of labor that goes into that, these were about 5-6 men that actually do this job permanently. Gets off 2 days. Zagendo kujawaka arabe michara bringing this money. There are these stories that you wish if someone could have like a recorder and record these experiences. And you at home see this. I think Said Katende mentioned something about appreciation, and sometimes you don't know what someone is going through. Kwe kufanagana hona abakyala nga abatunda emmere y'ekiro, abo abatonninyira eno ow'ekiro, abafumba obubinika bw'okucaayi, n'osanga omukaaba abatunda amatooke agenze ku loole balina okutikkula loole agenda ayimirirewo. There are those experiences that you can never ever understand, and that's why appreciation in whatever form makes all the difference. Omusajja jagenda akutukira like Said Katende was saying, just because of hearing that one considerable word. It does not take away in any way that there are no women who have done, like hard jobs and all of that, but the men seem to lose out on this because they come back as nojja n'ofuna ekigambo ekikumalamu amaanyi gonna agabadde gasigadde n'ag'ekisajja nga mugatwalidde, omukono gwayisa makumbi guli waggulu. Salaamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi engineer.
Hello.
Hello, assalamu alaikum, engineer.
Walaikum assalam wa barakatuh.
Sebo je waliko.
So
How was your day?
the day was all right.
We are appreciating fathers.
Yeah, when I look at my dad,
Now,
when I look at my dad's life and what he did, I say, how did this man who couldn't write, but could speak, when speaking English, could understand, could speak Swahili, he could do business, international business. He used to have Makere service station at Rwanda, petrol station, Makere Hill Road. He was the one who started that petrol station. All the politicians used to come to that place. He was a typical Kabakai man. But he used to be nice as the typical UPC men used to come there and discuss politics. And says, how could you manage to do it? So they talk freely. They have these friends. When it comes to politics, when it comes to religion, he was over there. I said, the man died in his late 16, died around 69. But what he left behind, he says, how could he plan that at any time I'm going to die? But where am I going to leave my children? He had 2 wives, setting up business that outlived 50 or 60 years, and they're still there. I say, how did you manage to do it? He was a fanatic football man. His team there was a fond member of Express
yes.
Football Club.
Yeah.
When it comes to Saturday, that was football. He could do anything, was at Nachivuvo. Sunday, that was at home, entertaining the Christians. The priest used to come to our home. Friday, you see Muslim being entertained at home. He said, if the man wouldn't discriminate, who couldn't belong anywhere. I remember when we had a filling station on Christmas. It's we were managed. Hello, are you still there? Hello? Hello?
Yes, Engineer Issa Makumbi, we can hear you loud
Yeah,
and
I can hear you loud and clear, Issa. Yes, I'm
okay.
here.
Christmas, he switched to man saying fuel on Christmas. And said, don't you understand why we do business on Christmas? He used to let those petrol attendants go home. Then he said, know the trick? Because in one day, I'm the only one who had the petrol station open. Benajire kolomukoza ajja kubba ssente. Kubanga ensimu zaako z'olunaku ziri too much. Zijja kumuinteresinga, will be enticed to steal the money, to run the money. When From was a meat dealer, there are 5 people were controlling Rufla. When I went to Rufla, I couldn't believe that there are only 5 people were working there. The rest were just customers. He used to go to Kenya, buy cattle. He used to go to Karamoja and Mbarara to buy all those cattle. He come there, he runs it. Half of Wandagea market and Kampala meat sellers was his. Having contract with Mackay University, several those petrol stations, those big institutes, was supplying meat to them. And he used to employ people who are well educated. When they were there signing the document, they were so many into Nenga Manyi Baba Mulimba. He looked at his face. Naga, it is true.
Cut them.
Cut them. What will Chirunda, Azajime Chirunda? Ngaigundi yambera ku segere. Baba linda utuyayogera agambe eki. Uli mwanya ennyo omutwe. Tutegeeza nti yakulimba. Nze Nakimugundi Musini nga ngenda ndi mu primary nga mmaze muganda ngenda mu primary 7 agenda mu senior 1. Come Friday, now got to get Nairobi. 2 of us. I remember I think I was 13. My brother was 14 and a half. He bought us a ticket and put us on the train to Nairobi. Before we put us on the train, he said, yeah, mwazaliwa mu Kampala. Yes. Tumanyi session weri. Tasobola kutuuka Wandegeya nti sobola kutuuka Wandegeya. Enguudo baziyita batya? N'atubuulira nti oluguudo bw'oti Kimathi Avenue ojja kutuuka bw'oti oluguudo oluddako Athi River gy'ogisiŋŋaana wali hotel. teyagamba maama waffe teyabagamba okubuuza n'abuuza nti abaana balidda nti bagenze Nairobi mama Katonda afentinge abaana bano atuwadde ensimbi ye amanyi gyasula twatuukawo n'akuba essimu tebaana batuuse n'aga nti batuuse naye nimugaa nti omuntu bw'atyo oyinza okumaginga omwana n'omugamba myaka 13 omwana 14 n'omusa ku twena akola ki agende nga yakola ebintu by'otumusuubira era bwe yajja yali ayagala nnyo omupiira bwe bakuba Mengo teyaddeyo mu kisaawe and he hated about it but babinayise bonna bakalole Sitala all these ministers were his friends but hated about it as a man but used to when he talks to anything for example like Wandagia Mosque by Haji Kasuri bagende Zanzibar fundraising for that money for the mosque no Muzanti we came with people who speak the language don't understand those were Swahilis their language was so fascinated we made us to like the language but we couldn't master the language at home he was buying cattle from Karamoja he used to bring Karamojas at home they come with their half naked he puts them in the sitting room with them for us we used to distance we get to be agara tuga tuyinza okutta omusajja afaana bw'atawaka naye ng'agamba nti bantu bakuwaki ensimbi zose z'okozesa zivamu abo oli bw'ajja e Kampala tajja kubba nte zange kubanga omukalamoja okumujja e Karamoja n'omweta mu Kampala abanga ffe ovudde e Kampala ogenze London first time nze kuyasooka nga gwe gwasooka okulaba ettaala naye nga bwe ntunulira ebintu byakola nenga nti singa yali living up to 70 wogenda mu 80s mutabadde one of the big industrialists naye nga katonga bwe ndamulade nga ndi mu senior 3 senior 4 nagenda ngolwageranga erinnya muzeeyiwo nolaba bano bakirunda kiba ejjinda bonna yabayigiza politics bonna bwe yaboeranga nga bajja muholede bajjaawo nga bonna talina side kwali naye buli kimu mwali watuka amasheeki gyali abasuubuzi gyali wano mugundi beno boycott yagoba abayindi mu Kampala yalina Agustin Kamya era ffe ewaka twasanya twali baana bataawo omulaba ekyo yalina abakyala babiri omwali Wandege omwali Makerere naye nga tebamukkiriza kutambula naye ekiro nga avuga eggaali n'agenda omukyala bo naye n'obuuza nti omuntu yalina atya site n'aga nti abayindi batumisizza business era ebintu ebakula ebintu ebyo kwe kujja okusiŋŋaana people like Mukubira Kayondo shoes to go and do business in the middle of Kampala. Ye n'agamba his deal was to chase Asian from Wandege. That was his task. Nolaba ng'omuntu yalina idea nti yalaba ebintu ebyali ewala kati nyinza okujja okugamba yafa almost 60 years naye ebintu byalekawo tukyabikozesa ng'ojja n'osiŋŋaana n'abazzukulu n'oga nti omuntu yalina idea n'oga nti omuntu w'emyaka egyo oyinza okulaba nti kinakukola ekintu nti come 50 years kijja kuba nkikola ki n'asettingawo gwe yalinga
that they were close.
They're best friends.
They established something that still lives on years and years after. Everybody else is building upon what the blocks that they laid.
Era tubadde ne meeting emu nga tuli ku bintu bya Kaswene muzeeyi nga baagala crashing abaana aga nti no those were two families, we are too close to each other tesobola kukola ki kucrashinga ku bintu naye nga olaba omuntu eyajja okutuwa inspiration n'agamba nti oba oyagala okukola ekintu kyonna yiga okutambula era bw'ojja n'owula ekintu kyonna ekyantwala yonna mpise mu Russia yonna gundi yakola okuntwala e Nairobi nga ndi mwana muto sina kintya omanyi nti bw'otuuka enenewea ojja kukola ki ojja kulaba ekintu nga bw'otunuulira bizinesi yakolanga n'abantu yalina wasanga tamanyi kwogera tamanyi luzungu oluzungu nabeera n'abazungu nga alina omuntu amubeera okumpi ye interpreter namulaba nga alina accountant ng'omuntu ajja na closing a business at the end of the year n'abala ebitabo n'amanyi sene zakoze ki zakoze kubanga nkira kyenjukira kye yakola nnyo nga asupportinga abatali basiraamu nge makere kundi church yalingawo watukogula amatugula abalina contribution yasookayo n'obuuza nti omuntu akola atya ekintu ekyo naye bwe yafa ng'olaba abatali basiraamu basinga okuba mikwano gye naye n'olaba nga omuntu ajja n'agamba nti ono ntayagala kuba muntu atali musiraamu tamusemberera oba bw'ojjira bw'oti naye nga olaba basettinga ebintu ebyaliwo kati ngende omusa bali bakasula bonna babitandikanga nga bagamba nti tulina problem n'abaana tusomesezza abaana naye banagenda batya mu office najja agamba ne bagamba nti ekisinga tulina haki nnya wasako omukyalo omu atali musiraamu bwona omuwasa bwajja kuzaala omwana agende wakojja bwajjajjaawe abeereeyo bw'anabeera mu musa bw'anatuka okusoma bajja mumwaki omulimu naye ngulaba ng'otunulira ebintu ebyo nogamba nti asobola ty okulaba ebintu ebyo tyobeera wana employment tukitakolinga tutya kati bwe yagiranga bizinesi ze kyeyasooka okukola okuva wansi okutobwena nga ayitegeera yali ngaawo ng'arwaninga erufulawa nabgundi awo nga ni mu primary 6 manya primary 7 ku makya ngamba nve Makerere ngende erufula mpentekinge measurement z'ennyama oba ogende n'akasero ng'omubeera naye ng'olaba omuntu ayina alaba before the others naye ninga nti esinga nabite ye half of it I think I'll be a very very rich man naye kati ng'olaba ebintu ebibeera wano ku muntu n'ojja osinga n'omuntu oli ng'ayogera nti ono mukafiiri ono muki ng'ewaffe okwogera ekigambo ekyo onomuddawa oli ng'aga nti omuntu has got his belief so he was more of a nationalist than n'ojja omusiŋŋaana. He was a Muslim. He married a daughter of the king of Unyoro. No, how could he manage? Then Sibiru was, he married one of them, was over there. No, government, he was someone who know what to do. Na ye, chemwagalirako, he could see, or 40, something to come another 50 years. He could read it. I think that when I look at my father, should I have that ability? I think I would have done so better. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Isa Makumbi, and Barakallahu Fikum. Let me just bring in someone else into the conversation as well. Barakallahu Fikum. Yes, Binti Idris. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are celebrating fathers or husbands who normally walk away, who stay away, who we are appreciating tonight. Binti Idris Wori. Hello, Binti Idris. Baraka. Baraka, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I wanted to hear from the ladies at least now. I've had two men in a row, and Hajat Sarah in the middle there. We've been three men actually, including me. Baraka or Binti Idris? Let me try. Is it Milo or Milo? Milo? Or is it Milo? Everybody's gone quiet, subhanAllah. Hello? Milo or Milo? Binti Idris, did you come? You unmute there. Still missing out. 9:30 in United Kingdom, 75 W Radio Live. Ummah Connected Live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. The program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and we are appreciating Fathers Away. Today, not necessarily about Father's Day, but we are looking at all these interesting stories, especially for some reason you find that the clout of the older men, the men who lived in the 60s, 50s, and 70s, and 80s, had a particular way that they have lived their lives that we have not managed. I think we have failed a little bit. We have failed a little bit on our side in terms of being able to follow in their footsteps. It would be very, very interesting to having listened to all these stories of the people and what was happening, the sort of things that they did, the kind of acumen, actually it's more the business acumen. Issa Makumbi has touched it, Said Katende did, Hajat Sarah brought it out, the issue of the business acumen, how these people would be so clever to look so far. They do businesses that have managed to live through times. And we are still struggling even to make this impact, but also involving our children, because get someone and put them on a bus. I had some very interesting situation. 1986, I think I was about 13 years old. In 1986, we are at school. I'd been sent to Kenya. So when the war broke out, after 1979, we fled to Rwanda. So we went to Rwanda. That's where we were when Idi Amin was overthrown. And we were very close to the regime because the Ugandan ambassador to Rwanda at the time was married to my auntie, my mom's sister. And so we were living in the ambassador's residence. But of course, with Idi Amin overthrown, the situation now suddenly, of course, changed. Well, 79 comes, 1980, situation seemed like there was hope coming up in Uganda. The elections are organized, and then we returned to Uganda around that confusion of the elections. Elections happen, and well, it is apparently said that the elections had been rigged. Obote rigged himself via Paulo Mwanga to come back to power again. Museveni ends up leaving and running to the bush and starting the 5-year war that actually led to the NRA coming to power. So we fled to Kenya in the second war now, because we had just returned from Rwanda as refugees, and then we ended up crossing over to Kenya. Now in Kenya, as 1986, Museveni had just captured power in Uganda. And I'm bringing this because of a story that Issa Makumbi has just mentioned about his father buying a train ticket, and then just showing them just telling them to go to this particular address, and they managed to find it. I traveled a lot, with parents. And again, the traveling parents now gave us that whole idea of a world that was big out there, a world that you could only find out once you got, traveling or moving. 1986, my dad gets married to another wife, a Congolese woman. We are living with her in Nairobi. My mom is moved back to Uganda. And so we are living with a stepmom who became a very, very serious problem. I couldn't stand. We tried to, it just couldn't work. She was actually much, much younger. And I don't know why, well, she picked on me in particular. When I know Gezi Runja, I'm not sure, but I stood out amongst my 3 other brothers. So 1986, I had enough of this whole, situation. And I decided to flee. Nentoroka okuva waka, 13 years old, no ID, no passport, nothing. I just managed to get money off this very stepmom. I managed to lie to her that there's a textbook gyebali baagala ku ssomero nenjogera erinnya wali erinnya ki Allahu a'lam. But I managed to get money off her, and the same way waliwo buses, Akamba, there was Mawingo, there was Coastline, there was Gold Line, and I took an Akamba bus. Well, it was no Mawingo, which was coming up to the border. Tewaliwo bus just straight up to Kampala by then. So the buses would come up to the border, and then you would take just the smaller cars on the bus. I managed to escape. Nentoroka ku ssomero, sente omukyala maama ze yampadde, step mom ze yampadde, nenninya bus. Nina, well, let me try to cut a long story short. Basically, I escaped from school, nenkwata ka suitcase kange nenzija nako n'engoye. Nemmanya siyinza kudda waka kubanga maama gwe nalimbye okumpa ssente yantwala ng'amaze okumpa ssente n'antuusa mpaka mu taxi n'antuuza naga nti omwana wange agenda Machakos, tavaamu nga tannatuuka Machakos, which is about 40 miles from Nairobi. So there's no way I could leave the taxi. Kati namala ku traveling and nentuuke Machakos, then nenninya taxi ekomawo to be able nga nze nsazeewo ngenda Uganda. Olwo Uganda ngikomerera 1981. Since I went to Kenya, I'd never returned to Uganda. I was taken to Kenya as a young person. Now, this is 6 years down the road, and I'm embarking on a journey that I've not made, except listening to stories of truck drivers who would come home to visit, my own dad's stories, and so on. And this was what was embedded in my mind. I escape. Kati ngende wa mukwano gwa taata. To say at night, ngenzo kusula. I tell them, when I invite kusomero late, I can't go home. Kati mbadde nsaba nsule wano. Then enkya kumakya inshallah ngenda kera ngenda awaka nkimeyo sente z'ebitabo, then I just go back to school. And no problem. As coincidence would have it, probably stepmom sent teyali zimpadde naye dad had rung n'agamba nti ajja kutuuka enkeera. I was not aware about this. So taata atuuka the very morning ye nasuze. And nze nkedde ku makya mbaga nti leka mbadde nsaba kati ngeri gye ngenda okukima obukimi sente, let me leave my suitcase here, ngende nkime sente awaka, then I come, I pick the bag and then just go straight back to school. No problem. Bali ba mikwano gya family, we are very, very close. Babera Pangani, if we used to live in town mwenyini Accra Road in the city center, Nairobi city center mwenyini. These ones used to live outside Ngaisili Pangani. So I leave Pangani to go Furuma, and I'm booking a ticket yange bulungi nye okutambula, but buses can only travel at night. Or nkedde kumakya njagade ngende ngule ticket yange okutambula ekiro, nzireyo eri awaka ngende nkimeka suitcase kange noonye gye neebuzaabuliza nga mbayinga time until close to 7 o'clock when I would come and board the bus to be able to travel. Taata atuuka awaka, bamugambira ne bamugamba nti Kassim alikuwa hapa na alhamdulillah kuna vitabu alikuwa amemtuma, so nimempatia pesa na nikamsindikiza akaelekea shule. So Kassim was here for books. He wanted money. I gave him the money, so dad goes on praising, stepmom, and alhamdulillah, good, he managed to go back to school. So the place that I'd spent the night, this was his best friend. Like tata bwatuuka tayinza kumala lunaku nga tannabagenda kukyalira ku bali. First of all, they had been out of Uganda for a very long time. They had lost touch. N'Oluganda nga batandise olubeerera boogera lumenyefu. So dad was the only link to Uganda that they had. So whenever he would come, he would definitely go to ogenda okukyala. Ati tata bwagenda okukyala gye nasuze tuukayo. Alhamdulillah, Kassim naye yasuze wano era kati abadde wakanduza omusanzi abadde azze kujja kukima sente, then ajja akima ebintu byagende emboozi nga tezigatta. Wife said I escorted Kassim. I gave him money, took him to the taxi and made sure, like he was on his way to school. Here, Kassim spent the night here and he's come home to pick up money so that he can go to school. Dad yabagamba kimu, a suitcase mugimpe, then ekyokubiri bw'akomawo mumukwate mumusibe emiguwa and call me. So bazogura my ticket in town. I leave Accra Road, I return, then awakanzize kukima my suitcase ngende nfune gye neebuzaabuliza nga buying a time. The money I have, a total balance, nainja nzijeko sente za bus only, and then after which I would take the other money nzireke mu suitcase zino ngende ntwale mutwazi just as a ticket. Omutima ne gugamba no, the sente zoyina ziri ku mubiri is what is your money. So buying ticket mazogigula, I come back home. I've come to pick my suitcase to be able to go. Ngende neebuzaabuliza ngende okwebuzaabuliza. Ngende okutuuka Allah nga bw'ategeka ebintu. I find kids playing outside. Abaana bayogera kimu ne bagamba omwana yajja bamuyita Musa basanga bazannya omupiira wabweru. So I find the kids playing outside. Bali ku mupiira bazannya. Kawana omwana Musa nga avaako kubadde ajja dduka. Kassim, baba yako amekuja hapa, amesema ukija wakushike wakufunge kamba alafu umwite. taata we yagambye bw'ojja bw'otuuka wano bakwate okusibe bamukubira essimu ajje. Oh my goodness, subhanal malik al-Qudus. Immediately, I fought very quickly. Nenziruka misinde gyesamanya gye gyava. I didn't know where it came from. Nadduka emisinde katono panic egudde. I'd been planning to travel. Ebintu byange luggage yo negenze, but I have my money on me. Why am I bringing this story? Again, I mean, we are celebrating fathers, but the kind of exposure they put us onto, it helps to inform some of the decisions and the life's risks that we have taken. I'm taking it off Issa Makumbi's note where he says he's ended up in Russia, he's ended up in UK, wherever, and fear has never been a part of him simply because of the kind of training that he had received. Our dad had trained us in those ways of sort of knowing you can stand for yourself. I'm 13 years old. I'm embarking on a journey, crossing a border, no ID whatsoever, no photographic ID, no passport, no nothing. I live ntandika kudduka misinde kati ne muzeeyi maze okumanya ayinza okunjigga. Now I think he's trying to work out where could this boy be? Addayo awaka story agenda okulanga story te adding omukazi amugambye. She took me to the taxi and made sure she didn't leave until the taxi was full and it had moved to Machakos. Here is Kassim slept here. The evidence is here are his clothes. And Maroko duka Allah antasiza okunkwata kwange okunsiba emiguwa engeri gy'okwali badde waawo, you can imagine. So I start netandika okutambula Uhuru Park awo netolola Nairobi ngitunuulira ka last eye awo. Obudde tebugenda obw'ebizibu, obudde bwagaana okugenda obw'ebizibu. Time doesn't move at all when you're in trouble. So I try moving around and around and around, and well, Allah does it. So I start moving towards the buses where I would be. Buses buses have changed a lot now, but the buses buses are Kadina. Some people batuula wansi, abalala ne batuula waggulu. Ebyo byatandikira nga kintu ky'amaanyi. It was a big thing. So ticket gye nabookinze ng'eri waggulu. Nzija ngenda wali, I show my ticket, I climbed into the bus. Climbing into the bus, 5 minutes in, olwo omutwe guli bweru bwe nningiza. Wallahi ngenda okulanga my dad with my younger brother, taata alina n'omuguwa mu ngalo. Yajja tisala agiyise kabandole ezo zaali ez'okulinnya waggulu ne wansi. These were executive ones, zirimu ne curtains na chairs of traveling at night. Omuguwa mulaba taata agukutte, ali ne my younger brother Sura Kayira. Taata agenda ka booking window, those are checking up list because there would be like 15, 20 buses as a same company leaving, around the same time. Tata agenda okuchecking and bamugamba amanya kwegali, and I had put my exact names. I didn't think about like anything going wrong. One, I didn't know dad was coming, So I got ready. Ntuula mu basi ndi waggulu ngenda okulengera omutima guli wali edduwa z'essaasoma nga taata musomera Yasin. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا. Meanwhile, I'm just thinking, what will happen? Anyway, there were two buses. So one bus was going to Busia, the other bus was going to Malaba, both Ugandan borders with Kenya. I think Dad, teyajjukira kumanya right, was the Busia bus or the Malaba bus. So Asoka agenda mu bus Busia, and I was using Malaba. No, I was using Busia, and he went into the Malaba bus. Nga bagenda mu checking, batambula basi bagyetolodde omutima nzolo gukuba. Although actually the only thing wanga mu town mu kwetoloola Nairobi is very expensive up to now. Tosobola kugula munwe gwa kasooli mulamba mu Kenya tekiriyo. Ogula munwe bagutemamu obutundu nga 4-5 buli omu ne bakusigirako kamulaliwo n'onywa tampeko y'amazzi n'okutirawo. Kati naye nagenze yakasooli ne mugaana ne ngula biscuits, House of Manji biscuits. These were like posh biscuits ezaaliyo at that time. naguze packet, and that's what I have. Mukakoti kanga ka checked. And that's the only property I own at that time. My entire suitcase has gone. And it's 46 minutes past 9. Oh my goodness, time flies. I need to finish this quickly and listen to your other stories. Ntudde mu bus starter ajja mu bus mwendi. And of course, given Tikabandole, he starts down bali wansi. Baba tebannaba kumaliriza wansi bakyatambula mu mitto. Abasajja baleeta obukambwe ba conductors nga bafulumya buli atali musaabaze afulume basi esimbula. Mtu yeyote ambaye si abiria, tafadhali toka nje, basi naondoka. Kuba basi zaabwe ezo bazikuba empi. Taata ne bamufulumya ne muto wange ngamba laba n'omuguwa we nali ndowooza omusoloobe guyinza oba gwali gwayiseemu dda. Allahu a'lam. I survived that. I travel in the bus. Ne biscuit yange nga kinasiibidde emisana gonna kyendiko ekiro kyonna ekya basi. Ennusu sikyayagala kukwatako n'emu because I'm not sure whether my money will be able to take me across. And now, actually, this is a story I've told my children, and they can't stop laughing whenever they listen to this. And I think they want to do their own runaway now. The problem with telling such stories, you encourage, you incite people into going into doing similar stuff. Ntambula ntuuka ku boda ku makya, abantu bafulumye mu bus, buli muntu afuluma na passport ye mu ngalo, siina passport. I got out, packet yange ya biscuit mu ngalo, ne neebuzaabuza ng'agenda mu toilet. Okwali ogenda mu toilet kwe kwali okuziga nengera. Boda nga njirengera wali Museveni jjukira yakawamba, olutalo yalulwanyisiza baakadoogo, bwana buto bwalwana olutalo. Kati to be young is not unique. They can call upon you. Neebuzaabuza ndaba abantu bali mu queue bangi, obudde bwakakya ku makya, light temala na kumala bulungi, ngende kulengera nengera abantu b'ebigere gye bayita Sofia, crossinga Sofia ne biscuit yange mu ngalo. And as I was crossing, there is a young girl ayina ekibbo ky'emiyembe agenda kutunda miyembe. Mwekwata mangu ntandika okumweyogeza habari yako, kasita yaddamu katono ne nsomula biscuit ne musimba mu biscuit. Nsobola okunyweza emboozi tiwagira araba nti siri waawo, olwomutambulirako nsobola okusomoka ogenda e Uganda. Buli abanga ng'agenda okubaako kyambuuza nga mwongera biscuit ng'asooka asirika agaayagaaya naye bumuwoomedde ate agenda okutunda emiyembe. Until we crossed on the other side of Uganda, I said bye-bye to her. And I had managed to do my own escape from my own Sobiba, which was Kenya. But I'd like to hear from other people who haven't spoken. Actually, time is running so fast. We have 11 minutes to the end of the program. And I'll be coming to you. Please, if I come to you, make an effort to also participate in the conversation. The program is Come, Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. We are appreciating fathers. Isa Makumbi, so go ahead.
Yeah, the story is Savagambi. Twagenda naye ne tusooka twajunga yagulanga ente twali Kangole ne Karamoja. Ntugamba nti kati mujja kugula ente anaakola amagoba zonna zize. Buli omu n'amuwaza apanoza pound yapasinga 150 gula ente mu auction. Nagula ente esinga obulungi ennene n'ansekerera. Namugamba tunguze ente esinga obunene nja kukola ki, nja kukola ssente nnyingi nnyo nga simanyi nti ente ziyita mu karantini. Bw'oba ogiguze nga nte nnene terya nnyo tegejja. So the process was at least 3 weeks before it gets to Rufla. It was coming during Christmas time. I had planned that I'm going to make profit. I'm buying this, I'll buy this. You know, I made a lot of loss. I couldn't make any penny. Nembuza to why? If you are doing the business, raba process ebintu mwebiyita. Bw'ogula ente nga ntono, emala wiiki nga 3 erya mmere, erya muddo. Wherever it is, it puts on weight. By the time it gets to Kampala, it has put on weight and you have to make money. That's how they do the business. Before you do any business, learn the process and the pros. Unless you get that, you never make money. The other thing was, yali idi. Tumugamba nti bakunanga disc z'abaana bato, Rohana Club. I think I was around 11. I was so stubborn that I saw my sister going out for night disco in Rohana Club. That used to be Uganda Umusa. having discos at night, but organized by the father you're behind. Nagenda mu disco yatandika ssaawa 3 zigenda okukola ssaawa 7 empewo ngeri mu disco yatukima mu 8 gwa kiro nenyiga ekintu ekyo okukola ekintu kyosaanira manya weokoma olwokuba twali mu kibuga tetwaddeyo ogenda mu disco genda mu bbaala ogenda tuna nga tutya nti if you are there it's not honey the life that goes through. You can't dance, it is too cold at night, never walk at night. From that, it meant you never walk at night. If a child, you have to be at home. The child keeping a Kampala. 7 o'clock, you are supposed to be at home. After 7, the life is unbearable. Kampala. The twag and the astray boxing and training anything. All of us, we are just well organized.
Barakallahu fikum, Isa Makumbi. Message here from Hasfaka Suja, who says, did you ever mention that escape to your father? I'm curious about his reaction when he finally an adult. Well, because the story goes on, it's a story for another day, but he came to try to take me back. And definitely the details, I went through them much later on, and he was laughing, and he claimed that he had trained us pretty well. So I think he took credit even where I should have been. And iPhone says you are a well-versed hustler. Allahu Akbar. Okay, let's just bring in 2 more people before we end. Please, ladies now, I need 2 more ladies, please. Sauda Hassan, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and Anisa. Tonight, I would like to hear from new people as well, people who have never spoken on the program. You've seen how well this program does. iPhone, your hand is up. I'll come to you while Anisa gets ready. Yes, iPhone, please go ahead. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sorry, I forgot to put my name, Haji Hamza Katerega.
Haji Hamza, yes. I was hoping that I was getting a surprise of a woman's voice, but...
But Nange, you really hustled when you were very young. But despite that, you were doing something which was not good for the family then.
Yes.
It sends a good message to all of the young kids that if you hustle and you're in the right direction, you end up winning a lot of battles. Mm-hmm. So this is somehow an insight into how you grow up. And many of us have gone through the same stretch. But what I would advise the young generation is to try to have, that's why these people get what you call a leap year. Hmm?
Oh, yes. A gap year. Sort of go and do something.
It's a gap year, and then they try to go out and see how the world treats them, because they have been in the comfort zone all their lives, and they don't know how other people hustle to achieve things in life. Otherwise, I would like to say your story is very good and it's quite intriguing. Thank you so much.
Well, we are talking about fathers. Welcome. Thank you very much too. But we are talking about appreciating and celebrating fathers. I'm sure you have a father story before I let you go. Something that is memorable about your father. Was he one of those who would travel and be away from home, or was he a 9-to-5 man that would just leave for office and come back home?
No, my father is the one who used to travel for years. He would leave Masaka to come to Chagwe to work in the plantations. Eh?
Now, you see, this is the real story that you almost denied us. Go ahead, please. He would work in the plantations where? Which plantations? The tea plantations or?
No, Lugazi plantation.
Oh, Lugazi, the sugar plantation.
Yes. This is a place where they used to have work. And in Masaka, we have matoke and everything, but we never used to have work.
Yes.
So our father would leave us for 7 to 8 months under the care of our mother, and he would be not even sending money. There was no way of sending money those days.
Oh, so he would have to put it together until he comes back with it.
He comes back, but he would leave us to a shop owner. There used to be a shop owner where there's a book.
Yes. Yes.
And then we could collect anything from there And when he comes back, my father was a good man. He would pay off all the bills.
Yeah.
And then rest like another 4 months. And then he would take off again. Eventually.
That reminds me of many of the people who came from Rwanda and Burundi coming to Uganda. They used to call it Gupagasa. As
Yes.
Pakasa. It was a Uganda word, but the way they translated it in Rwanda, it was Gupagasa. So someone who would come to Gupagasa, the one thing that you would know that Umupagasi yafunye, he would get a bicycle, nasiba kone radio mukatambara, navuge gari mpako okudda ye Rwanda Burundi jazze, nga akomewo ne kyapakasiza. So we'll go ahead, I just come in there. Yes.
Abwekito bwe kyali nga abantu bajjanga ne bapakasa ne baddanga buzzi naye eventually twamugamba nti akati muzeeyi lwaki totutwalya ddala naffe ne tubeera ddala naawe. So when he came, in the last time he came, he had bought land this way. N'asalawo okutulituka n'atujja e Masaka n'atuleeta ekyaggwe. Yali story yaffe y'okusenguka okuva eri. Ne tusanga gyali akola bamuguzizza ekibanja n'atandika okuzimbako amaka bw'atyo mpola mpola n'atandika n'okusoma mu bukulu. Kuba muzeeyi wange yasoma mu bukulu naye n'asoma n'asobola okutuuka okufuga district councillor naye nga yatandika mu bupakasi bwa kulima mu Baganda bw'otyo yadi ku yadi okitegeeza paka kuza naffe n'atuweera n'atujja. So we appreciate him a lot kubanga kyatulaga obuvunaanyizibwa bwe yatukoleramu naffe ne tukula basikiima bwe tutyo nga tuli bahasala nga ye bwe yakolanga.
Did you ever feel remorse over his being away? Emyezi ena gye yabanga taliiwo. Nyammwe ng'olwo awangaala atya okukola atya kubanga kati obuvumu bw'abakyala nabwo mu nsonga eyo tubaali tuselebratinga bataata naye okumanya nga maama kubanga kati maama olwo yabanga asigadde ye maama ye taata. How would she manage?
I tell you, our mom used to struggle a lot. We used to struggle a lot. Kati mulimu nga nze nalinga mugezigezi nnyo kubanga ku breakfast yalinga tekitebaawo nga tekyali nga etuuka ekiseera neggwawo naye nga nze nina neighbor mwami wamuyitanga mwami Kasujja Mukama amusaasire amuwe n'ekiwumbula ekirungi nga nze bwe mba ngenda ku ssomero mpitirayo.
Weetooza salaamu ey'okumakya ozze ku
neetooza salaamu ey'okumakya era omukyala oyo up now na kati nkyamuweereza egomasi buli juma buli Eid.
That's fantastic. Yes.
Nga ansikirayo akatogo n'akanteekera ebbali n'agamba Hamza jangu kale nga mama wange takimanyi naye ng'ate nze kanze nali nga nsoma naye nga nvaawo nga sinda kugenda dde mu lubuto wadde ate nga nina okutambula 7 kilometers okugenda ne 7 kilometers okudda.
Have you told this story to your children?
I've told it to my children. They know it, but some of them, because they have grown up in boarding schools, nice life, they don't even believe it. They think maybe that is exaggerating. But
because I think these are stories, and that this is the whole thing of appreciation. One actually, Hajat Sarah yabadde ozzo misinzeko abadde akola submission which was very, very interesting. But the point was, abasajja okubeera appreciated over the things that we go through. Nakozesa example ninga nti if it was possible for men nga lwafulumya okugenda okuwejjesa okuyiiya wabweru awo ng'alina ka kamera akasobola okuba nga kamufolowinga n'arecordinga bu recordings n'asobola okuba nti kadda awaka abawaka ne balaba what this person is going through, walking through hell and walking through fire and coming out with whatever they return with at home. Appreciation level yayibadde endala nnyo, but because we do not know, abaana balaba ofuluma. Oyinza okuba oli muvuzi wa taxi, oli wavuzi wa Uber, oyina akulaba ofulumye. Alage kulaba 10 hours okomyewo waka oli masuuti disabudde, doesn't know the kind of life that you are leading. Okuba okutuuza omugongo okakasiyatika naavu lwetuse n'omanya nti oli kutahiyatu. These are all things that are never told. You know, like if our families just knew what these so-called absent dads or absent husbands go through, probably appreciation level yalibadde yanjawulo nnyo. Kati okuba nti olaba nti muzeeyi wo bwe wajja bwe yabasengula, did you ever get to go and see where he was working and how he was working, how hard he was working?
Yes, we went and see. He introduced us to the guy, and we see how hard he was working and the kind of life he was going through. We couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it, because whenever he used to come home, he would come back after 7 months loaded. And we never knew he was going through that kind of life. And then eventually we realized it was a very struggle, a very hard work. But Muzei was a very determined person, because, like I told you, he was old and had not gone to school. So he embraced Islam. That was the first thing he did. He embraced Islam, and then he made us all Muslims. And then also started, by then during Obote 2, Obote 1, they had started those night schools where the old men who had not gone to school would go and study at night from 8 o'clock. At every center, there was those people teaching them. So my father embarked on that program, and he learned how to read and write. Even he went further. Actually, he did up to primary 7 exams.
Yeah.
And he even learned some basic English. And he became a district representative at Mukono district. But
Wow.
from such a very humble beginning.
Yes, absolutely.
So we really appreciate
these are the kind of stories that actually make you really, really want to cry. They're just powerful. They touch, they hit a chord inside you. The more you listen and think through such stories. Barakallahu fikum sebo. Very, very much appreciated. Urabe mbozi joba do tusubiza ngo ise ka kunguru. We unyanze hasla nga wera bidategwe haso iyo. Well, it's 3 minutes past 10 o'clock. Oh my goodness. I should have some ladies. Let's hear. We are just having a conversation. And this is what makes these programs really powerful. It's about you. It's about your experiences. It's not about us really coming to become the sort of the guide. We are just sharing our own experiences, and through that, probably get a moment. It's even the first time that you are coming to, say what you say here. Never got a chance to say it. If your parent is long gone, no longer with us, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on them. But I would like to hear from ladies now, please, before we close the program. Yes, let's hear Hasfa. Hasfa should be okay now. Hasfa had visitors at home, so I'm hoping you can just steal a moment, because one, I know your dad was an away father. He became so many things. Became, a diplomat. He was a government official. Lived a full life, if I may say. But as an away father, whether that was. Ajat Sarah is saying, I have to come to you, Hasfa. And so I am. I was, but a little bit not insistent enough, but I am now. Ajat Sarah, you can see Hasfa is already run away saying she's got visitors at home, but they are listening into the conversation. I'd like to get 2 ladies, please. 2 ladies. Anissa had promised, so I'm coming to you. I hope you're still there. You haven't disappeared. And Anissa ran away immediately because she knew I was coming. Sauda Hassan did say, well, that was a powerful story for me. Why don't I hear your own father's story? Sauda, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Nze nayenga sinayo father story wange yaliwo sawa yonna. Alhamdulillah.
Yaberanga wa wakati teyali mu safari yonna kugenda kukola nawe kubeera awe.
Ate yali mu safari, alhamdulillah, yakomangawo every day. Ng'agenda n'akola n'akomawo.
Yes. Ate gwe oweewo.
Oweewange abeerawo naye ennaku zino akolera London, so naye ng'ajja nnyo. Kati nze ndi Liverpool ali London naye.
Yes.
Of course, I'm missing out on the children. Naye nga he comes very often, like sometimes twice a week, sometimes once a week. Naye nga, yeah, alhamdulillah. Naye of course era naye waliwo struggle kuba kati okuvuga every week is quite a long journey. Ate amala kukola, bw'amala okukola n'avuga atuuka eno kiro. Namala like 2 days n'addayo. So yeah, it's a struggle naye. Ekirungi abaana bakitegeera. Abaana b'ennaku zino bategeera nnyo okusinga ate ffe we twali. Kuba bamanyi ddadi akola.
All right. Well, kati abaana bo bakirayi batyo gwate gwe okiraba otya wakikiriza?
Of course kinyigirizaamuko because taliiwo physically, ate kati nga embeera ya wano, of course mwenna muba mwetaagisa really, oba weetaaga his support. naye kati physically taliiwo ennaku ezisinga, so abaana baba bazitowamuko, naye ekirungi nti nina support system abanyambako, naye era still is not the same nga ye okuba nti waali. Naye nga alhamdulillah tukiwakingako mpola mpola.
It is a temporary situation with the time yali badde asobola okuba nti aggwerayo gy'oli n'aba nti talina kugenda London.
Definitely, inshallah.
That's very nice. At least okuli ate kumchara ali ku side eri kubanga that was the one bit ebadde ebulamu most of the time, and from the sound of njogera gyoyogeddemu olabika ng'oli mu ssiimu eri omwami tobaddemu bamunenya mbu ate yasalawo genda London.
Simunenya because twali eri fenna kati naye ng'olwokubanga akola nga nange nkola nga fenna weetuli naye nga child care ali very expensive nga mu area mwe tubeera tetulina muntu mulala yina gwe tumanyi ng'obeera ku mulimu ne bakkubira ku ssomero oba omwana mulwadde n'onoonya bw'okikola kati nga kikalubamu kate ng'alina okukola kati n'ensooka n'enzira ku nights ng'akola dde nights nga ndaba zidamaginga system yange okulya kukyuka ekiro oba tukyasobola kwebaka nga ndaba I was affected ng'ekiro sikyasobola kwebaka n'ennaku ze mba sikoze ate emisana ne mba nga nsumagira kati nga ndaba it's not good for my health. Kati ate ng'ene Liverpool ninayo support system, ninayo emikwano ab'eŋŋanda abali willing to help naye nga they couldn't nga tuli so far away. Kati ne tukyogerako n'omwami wange ne ŋŋamba singa mba ŋŋenze eno train ne bw'eba delay nze nga nva ku mulimu sipaniking nga mmanyi waliwo omuntu asobola okupiikingayo abaana naye abakubidde omwana mulwadde there is always someone available. Naye wali ng'osooka okukubira omwami ate nayo bayakatandika shift oba talina taking over nange mwennyini kati olw'okuba nti no twakiteesaako ate nga nze amuvinga ate n'ekirala kugamba culture yaffe oba ffe bamaama ffe tulina okubeerawo ennyo ku baana oba nkitwalewo entyo kuba nze nalabanga nti it's my responsibility okumakinga sure omwana alyoke omwana ali picked up from school alidde on time homework is done ekitegeera kati nze nalaba nga nze nalina okuadjustinga okusinga oba omwami kati ne mugamba tujje eno naye olw'okuba nti kati eno ye yali tanafunayo mulimu ate Katonda nannyamba kuba ebiseera ebisinga wabaawo ene challenge nkiteeka nnyo mu dduwa ne nkikwasa Allah kuba namugamba nkusaba otuwa ekisinga obulungi either okusigala wano nsigale ku nights oba okufuna omulimu e Liverpool. Omulimu ne gujja gwe nali njagala kubanga we nagamba ama pharmacist naye nga saagala kukola mu community. Nakolako community pharmacy for a year naye I didn't like it. Omulimu ne gujja ne ngu applyingira nakuwaayo CV yange nakola application ku deadline olunaku lwa deadline lwennyini lwe nagiwaayo naye ne bampita ku interview nga nakoze night nga nkooye nga ndaba nyonoona ssente zange kuba natuuka ku train station nga nga ticket ya pound 107 oba nga ndaba I was wasting my time naye ne ngamba bismillah kangende na bwe nkola interview omulimu ne bagumpa ne mugamba bismillah omulimu bagumpadde kati what next n'agamba ngende kati okwanze nali ngufunye ate nga ye no tanafuna mulimu ate nga kye tusinga okwagala ffenna kubanga tukola saagala ate naye kumugjayo ataasuka atuule wana ataanoonya emirimu kati ne tugamba agire ng'akola nga bwe tunoonya bwagufuna alhamdulillah ng'ajja bwe gugaana ekirungi nti ajja all the time buli waafuna day off ajja n'agispending eno naffe atera kufuna either 2 days or 3 days in a row najja n'azimala wano naffe n'abaana so kati it's okay but I see it as temporary a permanent thing. Yeah.
Oh, alhamdulillah.
Inshallah.
That's nice to hear. All right, let's hear from one more person and then inshallah try to get our conversation here. It's been a very, very interesting. Wasobodde okwogera abamu ndaba ensonyi zibakwatidde. Hajati NK mbadde nsaba nkuwulizeeyo katono mu ddakiika naye ziba 2. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, Hajat NK. Shamim yarabika wakusikana mugwa. Shamim. Hajat Shamim tukuwulizeko. Omubaraka yalemedde mu Kamoli ya Rabbil Alamin nkanyiza kunyiganyiga ko teyenyeenya nako. Omubaraka tuwulidde okuva wa Sister Sauda ebigambo ebiwooma ennyo. I'm sure you would definitely have something to say. Omubaraka NK ali ku mulimu. Yes, nkutegedde. Omubaraka olemeddeyo mu Kamoli. Beka kankuleete eddakiika emu wano inshallah nga bwennoonya ka video kebadde njagala okuba nti ketuwunzikanako conversation yaffe tonight. If you've just joined us, 12 minutes past 10 o'clock, the program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and tonight we have been talking about appreciating away fathers, not dead fathers necessarily, but fathers who have been walking away their lives. Beka, you say twagala nnyo bataata.
Yes, twagala nnyo bataata bayita mu bintu bingi nnyo mayengo mangi nnyo naye lwakuba balina okuteekawo sometimes face era egumya family nti buli kimu kiri okke. Ne baba bamuvumye ku mulimu ne baba bamuyisizza bubi ku mulimu alina omega sure nti ab'ewaka tebamanya, alina obbalaga baba tebamusasudde, alina okulaga ab'ewaka nti bamusasudde. You know, kati kwegamba aba olina okulaga nga taata okubeerawo nti ogumya family, okubeera kwangu abeera supporting mechanism eri family eno. So sometimes tuba underlooking, sometimes tubalaba oba challenges ebayitamu ebintu batasobola kwogera, you know, naye ne tunuulira nti tampadde kino, musabe kino tagize kino, tasobodde kukola kino, you know, naye ng'ate bw'omuwa obudde abajja kuba ng'atuukiriza. Ate n'abangi mu bataata beetaaga help nabo nga bo, era abataata bwe ebintu bikalubye twewe tusobole okubeera ne supporting friends, supporting community, tubeere nga tusobola okubeera nga twewagira ffenna nga bataata, tubeere nga twesupportinga kubanga nga bwe tulaba ebintu si byangu ate nga family tulina ozibeererawo.
Sebo programu ekukulisa mu butongole okuzaala abasatu nabadde tubaye twepanka wano nga ffe basaalongo naye ndaba watukubye penalty kati sebo mboli saabalongo kubanga waliwo abasatu. Obubaka
Omuganda agamba mumanyi Oluganda, waliwo olugero Omuganda lwagera sebo
sebo
tezikusooka olugwayo lutya. Kakati mumbadde muwaanawaana basaalongo muyita basaalongo musima Kayira waliwo baba bali bakuyita saalongo oba ki simanyi. Ate Omuganda agenda n'amaliza n'agamba nti musajja munno bw'akusinga simanyi bwe luggwayo olwo.
Olwo okala ogeze olutuufu olusoose otulinde.
N'olusoose lubadde lufune mmulekerayo
nnyo.
iPhone agaye nti omupiira bagukuba ogutwale kulika okuzaala abasatu abo bati bakyali balongo.
Alhamdulillah, benna twebaza Allah.
Allahumma amin.
Sebo.
All right. Because I just want to play our last video tonight. It is saying goodbye to us. You're celebrating your fathers. Well, one, how are you settling in your fatherhood? Wanga waliwo amaaso okumyuka ago kati mu time gyozzeemu awo tokyasobola kubeera awe.
Baba, the week is sigirabanga, stenawera na week actually. Sibyangu, Allahu Akbar, naye kyendabye nina supporting family, nina supporting friends, nina kwegamba nina abantu abakola ki abandi ku lusegere nti bamakinze gundi okubeera nga bibeera smooth, bibeera nice. Kyendabye nti tulina okubeera n'abantu abatujjo tubeererawo. Kwegamba olabye nti onagamba tukuyambe muki, tukuyambe wano, tukuyambe biki, bamu kwegamba olabira ddala nti people are offering help. Sobola okulaba nti bakuyamba okuyizinga eno gundi ezzeewo empya naye nga tebannatuuka waka naye sofa abasawo badde bakyatuyambyeko nti bakyabasigazaako ndowooza bagambye katusooke tubasigazeeko wano kimala osinkinga in.
Obuugi watandise okunywa?
Nywa anti nze nina okunywa sinnakawere sikyo.
Beka, thank you very much. Sencha program kwoli obo kyali
program jeri tugenda kwera twogera ku bonus parents era kikwataganiramu nekibadde kyogerwako wano nti tulina ba bonus parents. Simanyi abantu bonus parents bayinza kitegera kita naye bonus parents bwotwalanga ba uncle, basinga, bajjajja, emikwano, betugenda okubeera nga twogerako olunaku olw'enkya kubanga ngera bwogambye wano bataata nga twogedde challenges but taata bayinza okubeera wakati ng'omukyala awadde example taata akolera awe ali mu London naye kati nga maama ali e Liverpool alina okuba nga alina ba bonus parents awo abasobola okuzibikira ekituli kiri taata kyataliiwo taata agenda okudda nga at least maama waliwo abamukoze eki abamukwatiriddeko abasobodde okubeera nga bamuyamba topic y'enkya ssebo.
Right, absolutely. That is 7 p.m. on Akubencha, not 8 p.m., 7 p.m. on
Yes,
Wednesday, inshallah. Just like we shall have Sheikh Ismail Nkata and Ummah connected earlier in the day, inshallah. Please endeavor Obuta Bura programs is no gawezigenda maso, inshallah. Thank you very much. Well, why don't we just watch this emotional video to end our night tonight? Let's watch this video together to get our program to the end. And it's about a loving father.
Sound nga teriiko.
Sound nzigyeko nzigye njagadde kaggweeraawo.
Okay.
These are some of the powerful stories that they live. Wegakung'a nti konna kabali tekaliimu sound.
Konna tekaliimu.
Subhana al-Malik al-Qudus. I was very comfortable because I could hear everything. Oh dear.
It was not there anyway.
How comes? Let me see. And the sound wanogeri ku maximum. Ntegedde kati isime ebizibu byabeeramu nga ndowooza tukanya mugamba. Let me try and see because I was comfortable. How comes there and I wasn't checking the messages. My apologies. Let's see. Oh, this was very, very powerful. What we did then you wouldn't have understood. Tell me if you can hear it.
Bwebeganye ng'okampeereza.
Wanji?
Egaana ewo ng'okampeereza nga ngipuleyinga wano.
Okay. They can take a test in chat room. Picking wow. Chat room to make one on it. That was very powerful. I was all alone, but the maziga wanonga. I was thinking, okay, kako mu chat room. Please have it. You can just speak it. Sebon kuraba uwome de ntarabusi iPhone yao.
Yes,
Kuraba uwome de colors zo sebo urimo mobutu wao. Ismaga mutuliza kakiri kwako mwenja kuraba. Oba Hajat Farida nasimwa wano ujali wano. Hajat Farida obadenga nawe abadde akwatiddwa mu babiro kabaddewo.
Ase kati kubaddeeko ddoboozi.
Eddoboozi nedda mbadde ngamba ku mulamwa gwe tubaddeko ekiro kya leero eddoboozi lyali mu kulireeta mbadde mbuuza ku mulamwa gwe tubaddeko olwaleero.
Nzize leeti nnyo nga wabulayo omuntu omu nga yayogera.
Nkulabye era w'oyingiridde wonna eriiso bw'obeera opurezentinga puroguramu oba olaba buli ayingira n'afuluma. Naye tubadde abantu boogedde ebintu bingi nnyo ebikwata ku bakitaabwe naddala bataata abaatambulanga okuva awaka nakati abakyatambula abamu kubanga bowedde wabadde ow'e Liverpool ali London mukyala asigadde Liverpool emirimu gye giri eri bw'alina okukola kati sacrifices ezikola emirundi egisinga nga abasajja bawulira nga abatabeera appreciated ku ekyo ekiba kibaddewo. So we gubadde omulamwa gw'ekiro kyayo simanyi oba gwe olina kyokigambako taata owuwo yabeerangawo yali wawaka oba yali mu batambuze.
Unfortunately nze daddy wange saamulabako.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Saamulabako. Kale nakula na maama.
All right.
Naye mama, she went through a lot. Yeah, kuba taata yafa nga tuli bato. Kale n'abeerawo n'atukuza yekka.
Yes. Allahu. Ekyo kati sometimes atogera noyogera ku bataata ne weerabira nti ate waliwo n'ezo cases ebyataafuna mukisa gumulabako. Yes. Tusabe Allah amusaasire ebyamusobako.
Allahumma amiina.
Bwana Isma oba oli tayari sebo ka clip kajje tusiibule abantu tubaleme kubalwisaawo nnyo. Bannaye tweyanziza nnyo obudde bwonna bwe mutuwadde. We do not take it for granted at all. Stories zino zonna, whoever joins these conversations, I think you will have appreciated nti ebimu ku bintu bye tubeeramu wano ze kuba nti bwe tujja ne tunyumya omuntu ogenda okuvaawo nga tovuddewo nga bwe wazze. Definitely ogenda okuwulira ng'olinayo gw'owulidde omupya. Ogenda okulaba ng'olinayo ky'owulidde maybe wadde olina bw'okiraba ng'okiraba mu ngeri yo nga tokya-appreciatinganga. Isma Sebo ndi ready. When you start playing, I'll just stop talking. And this is the power. These conversations zisobola kubeerawo we mutali mwe conversations mwe mutukolera emboozi. Tugezeeko tuplayinga Isma tulaba bakanajja sound oba evaayo. Sound nange wano teriiyo. Esigibulidde erabika n'abalala nabo tebannagibulira. Yes, so conversations zino we ziba zijjidde. Bw'oba olina program yonna gy'omiisinze mu programs zaffe, you can just go online. Genda bugenzi ku YouTube, just you can type in. Actually nagezezaako ne typing come let's talk with Kassim Kayira and straight away bwe bayitawanyiza genda ku Umma Connected then onoonye come let's talk with Kassim Kayira. Nene bw'oteeka mu test come let's talk with Kassim Kayira. Programs zonna zijja n'osobola okulaba. There are times we get experts, there are times we get very emotional testimonies eziva mu bantu okusinza ku ebyo baba bayiseemu. All of these ekigendererwamu kunoonya ngeri gye tuyinza okuba nti as a community tuyambagana kubanga tubeera n'emisomo mingi egy'eddiini gye tubeeramu ne tusomesebwa amaseeka ab'enjawulo but obulamu bw'omuntu tebuyimiridde just ku it's not one facet. Tulina all these different aspects that have to be a part of someone's story.
He lies about having money.
Yeah. Isma,
He lies that he's not tired. Daddy is the sweetest daddy in the world. He lies that he's not hungry. Daddy is the most handsome. He lies that we have everything. The smartest. The most clever. The kindest. He is Superman. Daddy wants me to do well at school. Daddy is just great, but he lies. He lies about having a job. He lies about having money. He lies that he's not tired. He lies that he's not hungry. He lies that we have everything. He lies about his happiness. He lies because of me.
Hello, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bebazanyo for a very good program tonight, and thank you very much for sharing all your experiences. Hope to see you next week, inshallah, same time, Tuesday, 8 p.m., when we'll be divulging into another conversation on the day. Hope to see you next week then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Omunyarwanda ganti murara haryana hataryana hararumwanzi. Allah wankumire tusobora kuba tusinkana next week inshallah same time. Thank you very much for all your contributions. Abatiridde mu Kamoli nabo hopefully next week they will have gathered the courage. Shamim, Anisa, Binti Idris, Habiba. Hopefully we shall have to hear from you next week inshallah, a different program. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and have a very good night and a good afternoon whoever is elsewhere where it is still daytime. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.